Welcome to Easy Style with Sammy. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern. Each episode, I invite a friend, family member, colleague, or just someone I've met on this journey called life to come and share their personal style and approach to business, parenting, life, and everything in between. You'll hear motivational and inspirational stories that will help you refine and build your own personal style. Remember, style is easy when it comes from within. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Easy Style with Sammy, and today I am joined by Karissa Dean. Karissa, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience.
Yeah, so 2025 for me is so fun because I have all these people on the podcast that I've never met before, which is a little bit new for me, but it's great because we haven't really talked and I get to know about you and we just get to have a fun conversation about today, overscheduling, maybe under-prioritizing, over-scheduling and setting ourselves up for failure, which we all do as multi-passionate humans and moms and women and all of the things. So, Karissa, I'm so grateful for you to spend some time here with us today and kind of sharing your experiences with us because this is such an important topic.
Yeah, I'm excited too. You know, it's funny what you said, like the intention of it, right? And when we are just multifaceted, it's so easy to overschedule, to overcommit because we want to do it all, especially those of us who do have kids and we want to show up and give them everything that we didn't have. And I think oftentimes what happens in that is we neglect our own needs and our own desires. And you use the word, I'm losing it now, you use the word priority. And I think that was like a little bit of a Freudian slip because I think the reality is we say we want to prioritize ourself, right? Our own well-being. We can hold that intention for ourselves, but it's really the last thing on the list because we've already stacked up so much that by the time it gets to us, we're totally spent. So like we want to hold that intention to prioritize our own well-being, but we don't.
Yeah, you're speaking to, I'm excited to have this conversation because I'm hoping that I'm going to get some more tips for myself too. But before we kind of jump into all of that, why don't you share with everybody a little bit about who you are and why this is a topic that you're so passionate about?
Yeah, so my name's Karissa Dean, and I am a life and business coach. I'm ICF certified. And I really love empowering women to find their purpose and live it passionately. I think that, you know, as a wife and a mom, and I have multiple businesses, I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. It's so important to be in collaboration and community with other like-minded thinkers. So, you know, my coaching business is really the place where not only do I get to connect with women who are growing their own businesses and lives, but they get to connect with each other as well. So I'm building quite the community and really hoping to validate, empower, inspire. And one of the things that I've gotten really good at is learning how to batch content, batch things that need to be done in our businesses so that your business is working for you, so that you can prioritize yourself, so that you can step away and that you can really step into what do I need today instead of, oh my God, here's this giant list of things I need to do today. So I've really become quite the expert of how do I do so that I can rest.
That's so good. And I agree with you. Like I get through my day and all of a sudden I look at what was blocked off on my calendar or what I had intended to do. And sometimes it's great. And I'm like, yeah, I nailed today. Like I did all the things I said I was going to do. And sometimes it's a hot freaking mess. So I guess for me, one of the things that I'm really interested in is how do we kind of work through the mindset of honoring the tasks we put into place for ourselves just as much as we honor the tasks that we put in place for other people. Because that's where I struggle. I have marked off, like, I'm going to the gym on these days. I have it all set. But it's an easy thing for me to be like, nope, I can skip that and do these other things for other people because they're more important. Like, how do we kind of start to move through that piece?
Ooh, I love this question. Okay, so really exciting for me to talk about this because I think what really the question you're asking is how do we get selfish? And how can we redefine selfishness? So if you think, there's all these quotes and different ways of analyzing it. But the reality is if I have a glass here that's full and I'm trying to pour this water into this cup, it's really challenging to get all the water to fill into the cup, right? I'm more likely going to spill some of the water. And so if you think about yourself as you start your day with this full cup and you're slowly pouring into other people, whether that's personal relationships, your kids, your spouse, your partner, family, friends, your business, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, doesn't matter. The things that you're doing between 9 to 5, right? And then you have like your spirituality, right? So if I'm full when I start my day and I'm pouring into this cup, I am also at the same time leaking. And I talk about leaking energy all the time. So when you're constantly in this state of pouring, you're constantly leaking. And it might be a slow leak or it might come out all at once, right? And so the concept here is you have to change your mindset around, I have to continuously fill my own cup as I fill others. And so taking small, sustainable breaks throughout your day to replenish what you've been pouring out all day. And then it's also noticing where in my life do I have energy leaks, where I'm not being replenished, right? So part of the work that I do in helping women discover their purpose is because when you're operating from your purpose, when you're in your zone of genius, when you're doing the work that lights you up, that's giving back to your cup constantly. And it might not be 100%, but it's a much slower leak than, let's say, I'm somebody who's not super into sports. So if I suddenly had a career as an athlete, I'm going to be like totally spent all day, right? Versus being in my purpose, where my purpose is giving back as I'm giving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's been, because I have multiple businesses, and I think that has been the lesson that I have learned is just, I love my job. I love what I do. That doesn't mean I love every part of my job. So even like in a smaller segment of that is like, what I'm working really hard on this year is what are the tasks that I can offload because other people can do them? What are the things that only I can do and that I enjoy? And then what are the things that I feel like I should do but could care less about and don't want to do that deplete me? Like that has been a really hard thing, I think, as an entrepreneur and as a solo business owner, is really coming to terms with who am I, how do I want to show up, and letting go of some of the things I don't want.
Right, exactly. And, it's funny. I love how the universe works because today I have a group, it's called The Hub. And today we met and we did what I call mad mapping. And in that mad mapping, we put on our Alice in Wonderland mad hat because the reality is, as entrepreneurs, just like you said, you're doing everything. You are all the parts of your business. And the goal, right, is for you to, once you get to a certain point in business, you're no longer the bookkeeper and the accountant and the sales front and the back end of the business and the front end of the business. I mean, there's so many details, right? But as an entrepreneur, you do have to wear that hat that is chaotic and crazy and here and there and everywhere. And so you're absolutely right. Part of the beautiful journey of entrepreneurship is understanding, okay, I know how to do it all, but I don't want to and I don't need to, nor should I. And when you do start to understand that and you start to offload the things that take you out of your zone of genius, it gives you the freedom and flexibility to insert the things that fill your cup back up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what you're looking for here, as far as like a tip is, when you offload, what are you onboarding?
Mm-hmm.
Are you onboarding, okay, I'm going to go for a walk instead of doing my bookkeeping,
mm-hmm.
or I'm going to go to the gym instead of doing my bookkeeping, or I'm going to go out to lunch with a girlfriend instead of my bookkeeping, or I'm going to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you have to know yourself. You have to know what refuels you. And if you don't know what refuels you, then you have no idea how to fill your own cup. And once you know what refuels you, where are you putting that back into your days? Because that is, and it's little things. I mean, I think in the personal development world, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur and you're like by yourself working from home, you're wearing your mad hat, you forget that it can be simple things. It can be, I'm going to close my laptop for 10 minutes and I'm going to go outside and just stand in the grass. I'm going to instead of taking my phone with me to go to the bathroom, I'm going to go to the bathroom without any devices and just be alone. You know what I mean? Like it's little sustainable things, instead of being on the phone while I get water or tea or eat my lunch, I'm going to intentionally open a book that I really have been wanting to read or listen to a podcast that I really wanted to be listening to. And so it's about finding the really micro moments that you can stack. And as you stack them, they become easier to prioritize.
Well, I love what you said about when you're offloading, what are you onboarding, and really being intentional with, okay, if I'm freeing up this space in my day, it's not just to fill it with more busy. It's to be intentional with, okay, I know that I need more space and time for myself, so I'm going to make the conscious decision that this task is coming off my plate so that I can do this, as opposed to just so that I can have more time in my day. Like, I think I've never thought about it that way, and that's super smart. But I want to kind of piggyback on that in that I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I think a lot of us are. And I think within our businesses and within our life, like I have a very vivid memory of when I was weaning my first child. And so my husband would do the bedtime routine, and he did, she would cry and she would be really upset. And I would sit in the room and just listen, and I'd have to tell myself like, she's fine, he's got it. But everything in me is like, I want to take control and take over, and I can do this. And and so letting dad be the great dad that he is, and know that it might not happen the same way that I would do it, but that she is fine. Same is true in our businesses. Like, how can we sort of start to let go of some of that? Because I think that is a big hurdle for people. I can't let go of these things, personal, professional, because I can't let go of that control.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. When you discover what your zone of genius is, and that word is a concept from Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. When you discover what your zone of genius is, and you start to really see the magic of what you get to create when you're in your zone of genius, 80% done is better than your 100, because that gives you 100% space to be in your zone of genius. And so the more we can understand they're not going to do it like us. I mean, exactly to your point with what you said, Sammy, I know my husband's going to, like, my daughter's fine and my husband's got this. I know it's not going to be done the way that I would do it, but it's going to get done. Mm-hmm. So if you can just flip your mindset, and I think too, when you're hiring those parts, understand that you might have to try 5 accountants before you find the one.
Yeah.
You might have to get a couple bookkeepers or virtual assistants or whatever it is that you're hiring for. It's okay to hire a couple people and be like, this person isn't it. I need someone. But it comes back to that intentionality. If you have worn the hat of all of the roles in your entrepreneurial business, then you know what the standard of care is. Eve Rodsky talks about standard of care in her book, Fair Play, speaking to relationships. I think that translates right over into business. There's a standard of care that I expect from my bookkeeper and my accountant, right? Because we're trusting them with our money. Mm-hmm. And if they're not competent, if they're not willing to be like, what is it that you need? Do you need really good communication? Do you need them to educate you? Do you need them to make decisions for you? You know, and so you do, as an entrepreneur, you do have to have that hat, and you got to wear it, and you got to understand it. And once you understand the level of care required for you to then step into your zone of genius, then you hand it off. And I think, remember, you're not stuck with whoever you handed it off to. I think that's where the fear is, right? Because you trust your husband,
right?
You trust him. And so it's easier to hand that test over. Don't be afraid to hire, to fire, and to start over. And even prepare for it. Be prepared that this person might not work out, and that's okay. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to have a better understanding of the standard of care, right? And so I think we let go of control by holding on to the truth that if I'm in my zone of genius and this person can do it, you know, I mean, I like 80%, but really maybe it's 60% for you. I don't know. Like, pick your percentage. And I know that they're going to do it 80%. That gives me 100% to like create more, to generate more revenue, so that maybe I can find somebody who does it 90% in a year from now. Like, poof, what is the, like, I don't know about you, but when I say that, I get really excited because I'm like, oh, it just keeps getting better because I'm intentional.
Yeah, well, I think the term that I've heard and we use a lot with our clients is failing fast. Like, you don't have time to waste. Failure is inevitable. Things aren't going to work all the time. So fail fast so you can make those decisions quickly. So to your point about hiring people, put them through it, right? See what they can do and make a decision. So I think that's really good advice as we kind of think about how we're going to move through our day. But how important is communication? And more importantly, like, that's something I've really had to learn, is my communication style and what I leave out that seems obvious, that is not obvious. You know, how important is that in kind of this activity of figuring out what fills up our cup and what we kind of need, where we need support, you know, just from our overall community of people around us?
Yeah, I'm going to use the example when you're in the car and you're dating somebody and they look to you and they say, what do you want to eat for dinner? And you go, I don't know. But deep down inside, you know, like, you already know that you want tacos.
Always tacos.
For whatever reason, you're people pleasing, like your old conditioning, all these things start to creep in. And so instead of saying, I'm really craving tacos, you say, I don't care, whatever you want. And they go, oh, cool, sushi it is. And you're like, I really don't want sushi. And then they're like, but you just, so you have this like back and forth. What if you just cut straight through to the truth? What if you just said it? Think of how much time, energy, and effort could be avoided, being wasted. Like, there's a whole half hour, maybe even a day's worth of an argument that I know happens when women, especially women, do not just say what they need or what they want or what they desire or what they're craving, right? So I like to think of it, if we're talking about failing fast, let's cut right to it. Let's get right into the weeds. Let's be honest, because the reality is, the person who asked me what I wanted for dinner, when I turn to them and I say, I'm craving tacos, they're probably going to be like, that sounds good. I could get a burrito. Or they're going to say, okay, what do you think about going to this place? I think they have tacos. I'm craving a burrito.
Yeah.
Cut right to it. Communication is everything. And I think we fumble as females, because that's our conditioning, is to kind of like hold back and to be the caregiver to all. And I think that that's bullshit. I think that it's time for women to just say what they already know to be true. And the reality is, when I started practicing this with my husband, we've been married for 15 years now. When I literally, just that simple thing about what do you want to eat, when I started to say exactly what I knew I was craving, it cleared so much brain space and
Yeah.
energetic space. And he felt better. He's like, thanks for.
Yeah. I think it's the conversations we have in our heads before we have the conversations, I think take up so much space and energy. I always say, like, when my clients call or I get a text from a client, they're like, "Hey, can we hop on a call real quick?" I like immediately panic and assume that like I've screwed something up royally and go through this whole like emotional thing. And usually it's just like hey, I had this great idea, what do you think about this, or something. It's usually so minuscule. And so I think it's interesting once you learn somebody's communication style, then you know how to read into some of those things, and you're like, oh yeah, totally cool, like let's chat. You don't put things off, you don't stress about it, you don't sit in your own feels, which to your point, yes, takes up so much space and energy.
So much. And I think the reality is, as entrepreneurs, the more going back to the glass analogy, the more you recognize where you're leaking energy and you just stop. I mean, just give yourself permission to stop and see what happens. It's like suddenly you do have more energy to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you do have more energy to meet the girls for happy hour. I mean, how many of us as entrepreneurs, wives, mothers, we get to that 4:00 hour where we're supposed to go out with our girlfriends and we're like, I can't do it, I'm dying.
Yeah.
But that's like the one thing that we need to re-energize ourselves, to feel motivated and to get back out there and do the work that we love.
Yeah. I know, I literally just before we got on this was like, said to my husband, can I send you to the store today? Like, I know what I'm making for dinner. It's only 6 things, but can you just please run to the store for me after work so that I can not have to deal with it? So little things like that, but totally fine.
Yeah, he was probably totally happy to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I love how you talked earlier about find the little pockets in your day to kind of start to fill your cup back up. So like I love to have a sticky note by my desk that has some of the things that I love that help me out, just because I don't want to think about it. But it took me forever to get to that point because you fall into the trap of like, I should meditate or I should do these things. So like, how can we start to really discover ourselves as ourselves and think about what actually does light us up that's not in comparison to everybody else?
Totally. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you're an entrepreneur, you should meditate. And here's why I say that. If you read about any really highly successful entrepreneur, they have something that's called a meditative practice. It doesn't have to be sitting crisscross applesauce with your eyes closed. Okay. Meditation is simply the practice of getting out of your own way, getting out of your head. So I see meditation as walking, biking, running, conversation, pure silence, stepping outside, standing on the grass and just breathing, like I mentioned, going to the restroom without your phone. Yep. Like any time that you can cultivate a simple silence, I believe that that's meditative. I think that that's when we get the pings of this is what I need. So to answer your question, I think to get to know yourself, you have to quiet all the noise.
Yeah.
You have to get out of the shoulds of I should be walking the dog right now, or I should be making dinner, or I should be like engaging with my kiddos, or I should be writing that email. When you give yourself space to be quiet, you get to know yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when you're quiet, you discover the things that you might be passionate about. You remember, I used to love swimming. I wonder if I could figure out a swim class I could go to, right? So it's like in those moments where there's nothing else going on, you give yourself the freedom to explore what would be exciting to you. Oh, I've always wanted to take a cooking class. Maybe I could sign up for a cooking class. Like maybe it could be a fun date night thing for me and my husband. So you're always going to have the shoulds, but if you're not taking the time to get quiet, you're going to fill your time with other people's shoulds, and you'll never know yourself. So I really believe in getting quiet. You have to make time to get quiet. And again, I love your traditional, meditation, but I also love just sitting back and kind of looking at my space and taking in the present moment without the distractions, even without music, right?
That's such a good approach, because I think the reason why meditation stresses me out is it's like there's an expectation to it. Like, I need to sit here and do this, and I should experience this, and I have to do it for this period of time. So I love the way that you kind of reframed that, because I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask you, how do you start your day, and how do you kind of wind down your day? Like, do you have rituals that you do, and what does that look like for you?
You probably can guess it.
Meditate.
Yeah. So meditation is the single thing that saved me from myself, because it's how I learned who I was. Meditation is huge in what I teach my clients, and it's what I practice. So I don't teach anything that I haven't implemented for myself. So today, for example, the wake up time for my daughter was 7:15, and my husband was like, "I'm going to get up at 6:45 and shower." So I knew, okay, I like to have a half hour to an hour by myself. How's my body feel, right? I check in with myself the night before. How's my body feel? How much rest do I need? And I decided, I'm going to wake up at 6. That gives me a solid 45 minutes. I can make the coffee. I can do my 15-minute meditation. I can journal. I can pull my tarot cards. And by 6:45, he's going to be coming out the bedroom door, and boom, there goes our day. So for me, the nighttime ritual is checking in. How am I feeling? Because the reality is, some days I'm too tired to get up at 6, and I should really just sleep into 6:45, and we should get up together and tackle the day together. And so I think when you slow down enough to listen to yourself, you know what you need. Mm-hmm. So that's how I play it. I'm not super like type A, oh, you have to or else, and then there's that whole like shame and guilt. Like, I don't go there.
Yep.
I really check in with myself. But I have a daily practice of meditating and journaling, because I really want to know who I am. Because I think when I know who I am, I get to be my best expression to the world around me. And when I do that, it's a mirror for other people to do the same, and to experience the joy that comes with, this is who I am. I love who I am. I'm excited to be here living this life. And you become a reflection for other people to find the motivation to do that for themselves. So for me, it's meditation. I think for other people, it could be nighttime meditation. It could be getting up and exercising. I have clients who get up, they love to stretch or go on walks. I think it can be anything, but it really is. My selfishness came when I really committed to what works for me. And what works for me and my family is getting up before everyone else. Yep. Before the chaos starts, I've already taken care of myself. And now I'm addicted to it, right? And I can tell, like, the days when I skip it, my daughter or my husband will be like, "Did you meditate today?" And I'll be like, "No." And so I think one of the things I really want to make sure your listeners and you understand, Sammy, is that you're worthy of what makes sense for you. And so my life, I live by my rules. What are your rules? What's your life? What makes sense for you?
Well, I love that, because you alluded to that a little bit earlier when you were talking about like giving it a chance to work and seeing the results, right, of what that is, and feeling that and knowing that the time and the effort that you put into the work is valuable and does have purpose. I know for me, like, that's very much where I'm at. I have 5 years until we're empty nesters. And so it's like, who do I want to be when I don't have them to take care of? And that doesn't have to wait until they're gone. 'Cause it can start now. And so it's definitely something that's on my mind. So this conversation was kind of perfect timing to kind of keep pushing me in that direction. But I love the way that you kind of approach it and living by your own rules and kind of working through that together and understanding. I think comparison in this country is the most toxic trait that we have going on right now. And so the more you can kind of be your own person, I think I do believe the more that will come to you because you're being authentic and being yourself.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And the more that you choose that as an individual, again, you're a mirror for somebody else to do that. And we need permission to be ourselves, because the reality is, if we all did everything the exact same, we'd be living on the Truman Show.
Yeah.
And we all know how that ended.
True. That's true.
So we should celebrate our differences.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, Karissa, this went by so fast, and there are so many lovely nuggets of wisdom that are in this episode. So we will make sure that we link all of those up in the show notes. But if people want to connect with you, learn more about the work that you do, and just kind of hang out with you online, how do they do that?
Yeah, I have a podcast. It's called Critical Conversations. I'm most active on Instagram, but I'm pretty much on every social media platform. And anyone can visit my website for free resources, including a monthly blog post, KarissaDean.com. And anyone who just wants to say hi or is curious about, books or anything, you can email me hello@KarissaDean.com.
Yeah, and we'll link all of that up in the show notes at easystylewithsammy.com/35. But Karissa, thank you so much for your time and energy and sharing your gifts with us.
Thank you, Sammy.
I want to say a big thank you again to Karissa for joining us today. I apologize if you're watching this on YouTube. We had some video issues, and so there is no video for this episode, but that's okay because the content in this episode was amazing. I really hope that you have some ways to reframe how you're spending your time, what you're doing in your day, how you're making time for yourself. I know I do. It's something I'm actively working on, and I can't wait to hear what you take away from this episode and what you're going to change in how you implement your schedule, how you ask for help, and how you show up for yourself, because I know you're worried about how you show up for other people. But you can grab the show notes for this episode at easystylewithsammy.com/35, and that is SAMI. And I thank you for being here. Make sure you hit subscribe so you do not miss out on a single episode. We have some great stuff coming up for you this year in 2025, and I don't want you to miss it. And share it with a friend that you think might be struggling with their schedule as well. We all do it at certain times in our lives, and sometimes we need to hear this message. I know I'll be coming back to this episode because also, as we're in different phases and stages in our life and busyness, we tend to need to hear different things. And so I'm excited to have this in my back pocket to be able to come back and listen to so that I can glean different things when I need it. So again, show notes at easystylewithsammy.com/35, and I will see you in the next one.